Gorilla Grodd quickly rose in the ranks of fan-favorite villains in the DC Comics. He is a gorilla with quite a personality. Fans of this villain definitely think there is a lot more potential for this character, so in this video we will explore his untapped potential from his telepathic abilities to his ability to absorb energy. We will cover it all. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
The will of Grodd.
Who is Gorilla Grodd? Is he born with his mental abilities? Gorilla Grodd, aka the psychotic gorilla, who we all know and love as the enemy of the Flash. Now, there are quite a few different backstories when it comes to Gorilla Grodd's origins. The more popular one, the one that we follow on the Prime Earth timeline, is that once upon a time, there was a gorilla city. In that gorilla city, there was a king called King Grodd, and the king had a son called Grodd's son. As Grodd's son grew up, he was under the impression that he would be the one to be the recipient of the light. The light is this magical mystical force, and it is the thing that destroyed the Mayans, so being the one to have it would not be a joke. Grodd's son grew up knowing that he would eventually grow up to be the recipient of the light. He was sure that he would get this power, have it supercharge his brain and whatnot, so when he was of his age, he challenged his father to fight until death. As he was young and more fired up, Grodd's son ended up winning, and as the ritualistic process went on in their culture, he consumed the brains of his father, allowing him to get the memories and knowledge that he had. While that was all for a celebration, the celebration did not last for long because the Flash showed up. While at first the elders said that the Flash was the messenger, it turned out that the Flash was the runner, the only one who had to bear the power of the light, while the apes were just the messengers. So understandably, Grodd learned that everything that was told to him was a lie, and that caused a huge mental breakdown in him, which led to him becoming the villain that we know and love. But when we look at the New Earth timeline, the story is different. In this timeline, Grodd possessed the intelligence as well as the force of mind capabilities because he was exposed to this rock from outer space. This space rock gave him these powers when he came in touch with it.
Dear God. Not God. Grodd.
Is Gorilla Grodd a human? We know that Grodd has the mind power that allows him to affect other people's minds in whichever way he wants, but on top of that, it also allows him to use the human body as a vessel if he so wishes, effectively being a human. What we mean is his powers are quite vast. Sure, it has a few holes in it, but it creates an opportunity to have a good read. In one such comic issue, we see Grodd take over the body of this criminal, and he essentially becomes the criminal that he takes over. The only time he comes back to his true gorilla self is when someone calls him a gorilla. In the Angel and the Ape series, we follow Grodd's grandson, and we see that using his mind power, his grandson is able to control how other people perceive him, and he makes sure people perceive him as a human. So we can assume that perhaps in the comic, this manifestation of the power also plays a role in Grodd being shown off as a human. In the animated series Batman the Brave and the Bold, in one episode, we see Gorilla Grodd turn into a human. In this episode, we learn about Gorilla Grodd's evil plan of turning everyone into a gorilla using his matrix beam. However, in the midst of the fight, when he is not looking, Batman changes the setting of the beam. While Gorilla Grodd rejoices as the beam goes off, really it reverses everything. It affects everyone around the beam and turns everyone into humans, including Gorilla Grodd, and that makes it extremely easy for Batman to knock him out. Is Gorilla Grodd faster than the Flash? Now, Gorilla Grodd is one of the Flash's opponents, so understandably he has to be somewhat of a threat to Barry, but fans agree that the fact that Gorilla Grodd can catch up to Barry sometimes is just a result of bizarre writing. Grodd definitely has speed because he has superhuman abilities, but the fact that he can catch to the man who runs at the speed of light seems extremely out of the left field. However, we do get to see Gorilla Grodd beat up the Flash one time. This is in the Flash comic book where we meet Gorilla Grodd for the first time. Barry ends up in Gorilla City with no memory of who he is and what he is supposed to be. Gorilla Grodd has just ascended the throne, and since childhood, he has been told that he will be the recipient of light, the mystical power. However, when the Flash enters the scene, the elders of the Gorilla City disclose that the Flash is the runner, the one who bears the light. Learning that he will never get the power of the light drives Gorilla Grodd mad. He attacks his elders, and then he turns his attention to the Flash. We see Grodd and Flash go head to head, but that is only until the Flash is able to get over the traumatic memory that he is reminded of him. Once the Flash gets his head in the game, Gorilla Grodd does not stand a chance against him. Is Gorilla Grodd immune to the lasso of truth? Gorilla Grodd has faced off against another member of the Justice League. In his several adventures, we get to see Gorilla Grodd and Wonder Woman face off against one another. In this issue, we see Grodd and Wonder Woman meet, and as Grodd is an ape with superior intelligence, the lasso, hypothetically, should be able to compel him. But then again, he has mind powers, which makes it easy for him to deceive Wonder Woman without even using his words. That is why, while Wonder Woman faces off against Grodd, she wraps her lasso against her tiara to make sure he is not able to deceive her by changing the way she perceives things. Later, when they are both trapped within the lasso where only truth exists, it turns out that Gorilla Grodd never lied. He may have been a villain, but whatever efforts he put in, he was honest about them. This obviously puts into question whether the lasso can compel him, as he never lied about anything, but the lasso can definitely deflect his mind powers. He has the most powerful brain. Grodd is quite the powerful villain. Honestly, with how powerful he is, it will not be surprising if we ever see Grodd with a plan to conquer the world, because he definitely can. He has an extremely powerful brain. His brain powers, or mind powers as we put it so far, gives him the ability to simply shift his consciousness from his body and put it into someone else. He has telepathy and he has psychic blasts. His psychic blasts are quite strong, and his ritualistic feeding on his victims' brains to absorb their knowledge and intelligence definitely makes him stronger with every victim that he comes across. How genius is Gorilla Grodd? Well, evolutionarily speaking, we know that humans came from monkeys. Grodd is no ordinary gorilla. He has superhuman genius. His intellect is extremely high. We get to see it in the animated TV series Batman the Brave and the Bold, because Grodd makes a ray that turns humans into apes. And that is definitely only possible with a very detailed knowledge of technology and biology. So, Gorilla Grodd's intellect is quite high. He can absorb the power of his enemy. As if all that was not enough, Gorilla Grodd is also someone who can absorb power. If we follow the Prime Earth timeline, we see that Gorilla Grodd eats the brains of his father, King Grodd, to absorb his intelligence, knowledge, and powers. Not only that, in that particular issue, we also see Grodd mention that he is going to eat the Flash's brains in the hope he can have the powers of the light himself. This consumption of brains clearly works, because once he eats his father's brains, Grodd is able to retain the knowledge his father had. Grodd can access the Still Force. In the DC universe, there are 7 different types of force. One of them is the Still Force. This force, as the name suggests, is related to inertia and entropy. When anyone is able to control the still form, that person can, in turn, affect motion around them. Particularly, they can easily stop motion. Not only that, they can easily manipulate the acceleration. Hence, this force allows them to control the randomness of motion, making them unpredictable. They can also stop their own aging in every motion around them, so anyone who has this power is definitely someone you would not want to go against. This Still Force was found by Lex Luthor, and it was hidden in the scion of Turtle. Now, Grodd became telepathically connected with Turtle, and once that connection was established, he became somewhat of a conduit of the Still Force. His control over the Still Force allowed him to stop the universe from expanding. It is honestly mind-boggling how Grodd has not ended up becoming a supervillain. Does he have any love interest? Can he reproduce? While he is a villain, it does not mean Grodd is opposed to romance. He actually has a wife. We learned that when he escapes from prison in the New Earth timeline, he was engaged to be betrothed to Solovar. But as she caught his eyes, Grodd could not let that happen. So instead of wooing Boca, Grodd used his genius to create a device. This device, once attached to him, emitted neo-magnetic radiations from him. This neo-magnetic radiation was essentially to get anyone smitten with him. Thus, armed with this neo-magnetic radiation, he showed up at the wedding venue of Solovar and Boca. Immediately, Boca got smitten with him, and they eventually got married. They even had a child together. Their child is named Gorbul Mamit. As the saying goes, like father, like son, Gorbul was not happy just being in Gorilla City like his father. He too wanted to build a race of super gorillas, and understandably, that led to their own shenanigans. So yes, Grodd is quite the family man. Does he have any weakness? Now, throughout the video, we have wondered why Grodd never became a supervillain. Finally, we have the answers. As Gorilla City was a community that was built around the Speed Force, or as they called it, the Light, there was a deep connection between these two. But as we saw in the Flash issue 11, Grodd did not end up inheriting the Light because Barry Allen already had it. So, we can see that the community of the Gorilla City and the Speed Force are no longer in touch. This has affected the state of mind of the generations living in Gorilla City. This is proven by how seemingly with each generation, the residents of Gorilla City seem to become more and more primal and savage. Grodd is a prime example of that. But that is not all. The primal nature that he has makes him quite the brutal character, but on top of that, as he is the king, in order to make sure the community lives in tranquility and peace, every savage and primal thought that the members of his community have ended up in his head. This obviously creates a huge amount of pressure on Grodd, which in turn affects his mental stability quite a bit. These two are the greatest reasons why we never get to see our favorite psychotic gorilla take the mantle of the supervillain.
But he can't stop us all.
Marvelous verdict. Grodd is primal, savage, and an intellectual being. He is the villain, sure, but his genuine efforts in whatever he does makes him a villain that we can love, and we do. Grodd is a good character that pushes the superheroes to have character growth and gain perspective, whether it is the Flash getting over the traumatic monkey attack he faced as a child, or Wonder Woman realizing that despite being a villain, Grodd never lied about his intentions and efforts. With that being said, he definitely has the potential to become a supervillain with his abilities, and it is definitely an arc that fans are dying to see. If you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.
It feels impossible.
I know. Now get ready. This time we're on the same team.